The long-awaited episode 47 of Skibidi Multiverse is finally out, and I must say, I'm short of words at the epic fight scenes and the new characters introduced into the series. It's just absolute cinema. Dom really cooked with 30 minutes of pure epicness. Sinister is just straight up evil, going rogue and destroying multiverses, and the future Clockman has a heavy decision to make. So the episode begins after the Clock Titan and future Clockman teleported out with Sinister. We saw they arrived at a certain location where Clock Titan was still trying to undo the damage on his sword, but to no avail. I guess he lost that one. However, something attacked them. It seemed to be zombie-like monsters, and they surrounded them. But just as they were about to attack, Mr. Clock came in with Isa, and they brought reinforcement in the Prime Drill Titan, which they called Metal Drill, if I heard correctly. This guy was able to literally crush them all, but they had another guest, as Ethan, this Clockman, came in too and dealt with the final mutant. We later learned that they were abominations from scraps of dead titans that joined together. Damn, Sinister is really turning multiverses into scrapyards. After the brief battle, they offered to take them to a secret base, but Metal Drill asked the Clock to follow him for a greater mission as Clockwise wanted to see him. But before they could go, we saw the detainer from Ethan's universe, and someone is using it as a ship. He has a mission of looking for a sword, which, according to him, is their only hope. We can see him asking for more time, saying he'll bring the sword home. So basically, he goes back to looking for the sword, and the group disbands. Then we're shown another scene, which looks kinda cool by the way, where we see the commander on a speed chase with the counter titan in his new body. But just as they are racing across the sky, a bright light flashes and clones burst out from nowhere, threatening the counter and the commander. But counter literally owned them, saying, "They are all mine. The commander should mind his own business." Strange, right? So he leaves them to him. Counter is really raging at this point, as he literally bullies the crap out of those clones. You can literally see body parts flying out of the battlefield as Counter tears them into shreds. He goes on to get disappointed that all the Master could send were a bunch of clones, and clearly he's going for his Master for betraying him. Then we get to see the secret association where they took the future Clockman, and they sat around a table waiting for an explanation. We then got to see a zombified future Clockman, and he was kind of sus, talking about a bite from Isa. They discussed how Sinister is able to destroy universes, which was mind-boggling to the future Clockman. Then we got introduced to a Clockman named Sol, who allegedly claimed he and the C-Pen Krista created the time nuke. However, on the other side, the Clock Titan landed in Metal Drill's universe, and it wasn't what he expected. He asked why it was not advanced, but Metal Drill had to clarify. It's for safety. They can't put the life of their citizens in danger. Then, Clockwise and Cam Prime came in, reassuring him about the dangers lurking, which is the menace, Sinister, that is coming to destroy their universe. They told him about the time nukes, and he was pretty much horrified to hear it. Bro thought he had seen it all with the G-Man apocalypse. Then, Clockman Sol started to explain how the time nukes came about. You see, initially, it was created for peace, according to C-Pen. More like just a bluff. But it seemed that the higher your power, the greater the capabilities of the nukes. So, someone like Sinister getting hold of it was just as catastrophic, as it was destroying multiverses. We saw how Sinister was able to locate their base, steal the time nuke, and this menace literally left one for them. You would think he's doing them a favor until you realize he actually activated it. Damn, Sinister is just overkill at this point. They had to teleport out to save themselves while their universe literally got obliterated. You could see the regret. Why create a time nuke in the first place? But the deed had already been done. What was funny was the existential life crisis that C-Pen felt when he was told his other C-Pens were eating children. I kinda felt for him. But then, they still had to stop Sinister regardless. So the future Clockman brought up the question as to how Sinister lost an arm despite being so powerful. And that's when Ethan started talking about the Astral Sword, a sword wielded by the Champion Clock, which makes a permanent cut that can never be undone. Ethan seems to believe that there's only one that exists in the entire universe, and it's with Sinister. Mr. Clock had to clarify that the detainer is still out there looking for one, so it may be possible that another exists. But Ethan goes on to explain that Sinister would have stopped him if another one existed, which was quite plausible. But for me, I don't think that's enough to say it doesn't exist. Still, he was strong with his claim. So the conversation continued as they deliberated for a solution. However, in another scene, the Clock Titan is with the Primes, and we discover that my daddy clock doesn't belong to that universe. Even all the other clocks don't belong to their respective universes. He goes on to speak about a place that transcends space and time, and that is where the Clock Titan would find the answers he needs. He'll need Clockwise's sword to take him there. But just as all was moving well, a giant portal interrupted the conversation. And this is where the shit hit the fan, as Sinister had already invaded their universe. At the other end, Ethan goes on to explain how Sinister came about, from the Chief Clock using Sinister's energy to revive him. But to future Clockman's defense, the Chief was able to seal him back. Isa goes on to explain that it took only a few seconds, and that was enough for Sinister to do what he had to do, scouring around universes and even stealing the time nukes in that time. So Ethan's explanation was for him to go back in time and rewrite history by telling the Chief not to revive Sinister, which means he won't exist anymore. But I guess he'll save the other universes by keeping Sinister locked up. When he asked if they knew if it was actually going to work, they explained that it had happened in a cloned timeline, where he went back to stop the clone Sinister with this method. But there's a catch. When he asked what later happened to this clone verse, it was said that everyone got destroyed by C-Pen except the Chief, which still added to the grief of the C-Pen in the room. Brutal, I think. So this means he'll have to sacrifice his own universe for the rest, which I think future Clockman would not consent to, as everything he's worked for would be obliterated for the sake of strangers. But what do you think? If it were you, would you make that sacrifice? Well, for me, hell no. You'll go sort yourselves out, and as we saw, he didn't consent to it, and this made Ethan angry. And you know what? He snapped and decided to use force and some kind of hypnosis on him, as we saw the future Clockman do to the alarm Clockman in earlier episodes to sacrifice the Chief. So yeah, it's possible, but Mr. Clock was able to stop it, reversing the effects, and this gave future Clockman enough time to run out, with Ethan following behind him. We then got to see the Prime Titans, and they urged the Clock Titan to stay behind, as he's important in the battle. They went after Sinister to battle, and after a brief battle, they found out it was an illusion, as Sinister would attack Clockwise. So they went back to help him, but Sinister was already there, and he attacked Clockwise, who protected himself with a time shield. The battle raged on, with Sinister bullying the Prime Titans. He tried to stop time, but Clockwise kept on countering his ability. Then, the Clock Titan came in to help. With his infinite boost, he was able to boost the abilities of Metal Drill, which gave them enough energy to stand against Sinister. With this, Metal Drill was able to literally remove Sinister's head, putting an end to him, or so we thought. It was all just an illusion, as a sword pierced through Clockwise. It was Sinister. Damn, this dude is just straight up a terrorist at this point, literally raising him up and yapping a little. This gave Clockwise a chance to retaliate by shooting his blasters at him, which made Sinister let go. But the damage had already been done with the Astral Sword. Clockwise was in bad shape, as Sinister still slashed him with his sword, sucking in part of him and bringing out a time nuke to destroy the universe, then zooming off. But Clockwise was quick enough to teleport them and his sword out of the universe, bidding them to carry on his legacy. We could see Clockwise still trying to disable the time nuke in a very emotional moment, but the menace Sinister still came in to finish his kill with Clockwise's own blasters, in a final blast that pushed him off a cliff into the abyss as he watched his universe get destroyed slowly. So sad, right? Sinister is officially one of the most heartless and ruthless villains in all of the Skibidi fandom. I mean, why come back? Bro just had to finish the kill. Crazy villain. I wonder what they would use to destroy such a villain. Maybe the Astral Sword. But ultimately, it all comes down to the sword. I hope they find it, and my daddy clock is able to find his purpose. Write your thoughts about the episode in the comments, and check out this video to find out what would happen if the Clock Titan got replaced by the monster up Clock Titan in Skibidi Multiverse. Unique Clockman out.